Hey folks, here is a Beretta ARX100. This is the case it comes in. It's a pretty nice case. It comes with one magazine. Looks like a Stanag magazine, but it's not. It's actually a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier, and it's made by Beretta. And it also comes here with a sling. It's not a quick detach sling, but it's pretty decent. I do prefer quick detach, but it's a pretty decent sling. There is a lot that I really like about this Beretta. There are a few things I don't care for, and I'll get into those in a little bit. But first, just a little bit about it. The ARX100 is the civilian legal semi-automatic brother to the Selectfire ARX160, which is used by the Italian military. This is a modular system. It uses a rotary locking bolt and a fixed piston moving cylinder gas system. It was designed to be simple to operate and require low maintenance, as most piston systems are. It has a 2-position adjustable gas valve right here, and you can actually use a bullet to fix it, a cartridge. It has 2 markings on the gas system, S for standard ammo and N for non-standard. The N is more specifically for the steel case Russian ammo. That's kind of what it was designed for, but you can use it for any non-standard. Best thing is to put it in standard mode and operate it from there. If you have any issues, flip it to non-standard. This one here is chambered in 5.56 NATO, and it has a 16-inch chrome line light profile barrel with a twist rate of 1-in-7, and it does have dual feed ramps. It's capped with a standard issue A2 bird cage compensator, and it's threaded to a standard 1/2 inch by 28 with a right hand threading. So this will work with any suppressor that you have for an AR. Will work with this. And here's the light profile barrel like I was talking about. Now that sucker there really heats up, and I am a little bit concerned with an extended fire session. I am a little bit concerned with this light barrel. The good thing is that this is designed, you can swap out barrels really fast with this, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. This weighs 6.8 pounds. It's 35.5 inches long with the stock extended and 26.5 inches with the stock folded, and it is 8.5 inches in height. The stock is a 4-position stock, and it folds to the right, and it can be fired in the folded position, which is nice. The stock folds in here below the ejection port there, and as you see, the sights are released there. And then it has the 2 rails on the side here, and then it has a little strip of Picatinny rail here for bipods or laser, whatever you want to put on there. This right here, this front grip, actually comes off, and it has a rail right here. However, this is not a Picatinny rail, and this is actually designed for the Italian military, for them to put grenade launchers and stuff like that on there. Now, I've read online that Beretta is possibly coming out with a rail that'll slide on here and allow you to use Picatinny rail. But to be honest, for me on the underside, this is plenty of rail right here for a grip or for my needs, and this here is really comfortable to hold on to, so not a big deal that it doesn't have the full Picatinny rail on the bottom. Now, one thing I found about this, I've read a lot of different things online about this, but I found it to be really reliable. I didn't have any issues with it at all. I did not do like a 1,000-round endurance test or anything like that, because ammo is just too expensive. I'm not going to waste ammo doing that. Quite frankly, you know, a lot of rifles have a breakdown period, and there's some debate, or I'm sorry, a break-in period, and there's some debate on that. But what I've found, just in my personal experience, if I have a new rifle and I go through like the first 400 or 500 rounds, or 300 rounds, or 200 rounds, whatever, those first rounds are where it's most likely to have a glitch, if there is one, a failure to fire, failure to eject, failure to feed, and I had 0 issues during that time frame. So, you know, for the most part, from what in my experience, since it's been issue free on those first rounds, it will probably continue to be issue free. And yes, something could develop down the road, but that could be the instance with any rifle. So out of the box, I put 200 rounds of American Eagle XM855 through it, not one single issue. I then later, without cleaning it, took it back to the range and fired 90 additional XM855 through it with a suppressor, with that YHM suppressor. And again, I had no issues. Now there is a little bit of gas blowback. It is piston, and I did get a little bit of gas in the face, but wasn't a big deal. Now I've read that Beretta has something in the works, possibly. It's kind of a rumor. I asked them, I haven't heard back from them yet, but they might possibly be coming out with a barrel configuration specifically designed with the gas system for suppressors. Not sure if there's truth to that, but that's what I have seen. It has an ambidextrous safety, and the safety here, it's pretty similar to the AR-15. This is a little bit shorter. One difference on this is to disassemble, you push up on it, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Here is a mag release button here, mag release here, mag release here, and if you press up hard enough on this, you can get this to mag release also, but that's kind of hard to do. This is more of the bolt catch right here. Push on it a little bit. Like I said, push way up on it and the mag will come out. This right here is the takedown, and it works similar to a Glock. There's one on each side. You pull down on this and pull the barrel out. Another feature about this right here, there's a little hole right here. If you press a bullet, there's a little toggle in there, and if you press the toggle that way, so that it's on this end, then the bullet will eject off this side. If you push the toggle this way, so that the toggle's on this side, the bullet will come out this way, right-hand side, for a right-handed shooter. And I'll show you in a minute how that works. For everything that I like about this, there are some issues that I don't like about it. And first off, the first thing, it needs a cheek rest, a cheek piece. This right here, it sits really low, and it needs to, because when you fold it, so that this comes below the ejection port so you can still eject the casing. So it needs to be low, but it needs to have a cheek piece on there. Now the SIG SG556XI has one that's completely removable, and I think that might be something they need to do here. I don't know if you'll be able to leave it attached. They'll need to do something here, because the way it is, if you put your cheek here, it's not near high enough. This has a really high line of sight, and I have to put my jaw on here, and it completely does not work for me the way it is. So they definitely need a cheek piece. That is the first thing. The second thing, the trigger is really heavy. This one here averaged 10.4 pounds, and that's really high. It is consistent, and it is smooth. So I was able to get some decent accuracy out of it. And this is not a bench rifle. This is a combat rifle. But I feel like if they do lighten up the trigger a little bit, just to like a government issue AR-15, you know, around 8.5 pounds, I think it would be much better, and I think you would get better accuracy out of it. This one here, after doing a couple magazine dumps on it, my finger actually started getting a little tired of pulling the trigger, and my rate of fire slowed a little bit. That's how heavy it is, and I've never had that happen before. My trigger finger is not weak. The next thing, and this is something that it's not a huge issue because you could just remove them and not use them, but these flip-up sights deploy really awkward. For one thing, if you got your hand here and you're holding it, you actually have to reach up and over to press that button to get it to pop up, and then you have to reach over and pop that one up, which is really awkward. Reach over the rifle to get it to pop up. Now, taking them down is actually even more awkward, because you have to hold it, press it and hold it, and then with your thumb press it back, because it's not, you know, a lot of sites, if you press this down, it just sticks. But no, it doesn't work like that. You got to press it down and press the button. And same with this one. Press it down, press the button. I really don't like that. It's, if you're using it as a backup sight, not a big issue. You're going to mostly be using the red dot optic or scope or whatever you put on there. So it's not a big deal as a backup. If you're going to use this as a primary, for me, I would replace them. I really don't like that. Once again, this is something that Beretta is addressing, and hopefully they get that right. Now, one thing I will say about these sights, aside from deployment of the sights, they are actually some pretty good sights. I got good accuracy out of them. I like how they work. Here are the sights, and it is a rotary type sight. A little arrow, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, or excuse me, 400, 600. It gets smaller as it goes. And that's elevation. The windage is up here. So what you do is you zero the rifle up here and then use this for ranging. I'm a little bit unsure whether I like having the windage up front. It's kind of awkward to, basically, and it's a screw type. So basically what you have to do is, anytime you're in the middle of shooting, reach, and there's windage adjustments, reach in your pocket, take out a tool, adjust it, all that. Seems like a lot of work. It would be better if like there was some kind of adjustment knob on it. But they do work pretty well. They're very different than what I'm used to. The final thing that I don't like is the bolt handle. It's really thin, and if you have gloves on, not a big deal at all. But if you're barehanded after charging it a few times, it does kind of dig into your hand a little bit. It's almost like a 5-gallon bucket. You know, it's got the little plastic handle on it. Sometimes that handle comes off and you have just the wire portion to carry it by, and you're carrying a 5-gallon bucket like that. It's kind of like that. You know, at first it doesn't bother you. After a while, it kind of digs in your hand. That's exactly what this is. It digs in your hand after a while, so I don't really care for that. Disassembly is very easy, and it requires no tools, and there are not any takedown pins either. So you don't need anything like on the AR, a cartridge or anything to get those pins out. It's very simple. First off, you need to remove the lower receiver, which is done. Fold that back, press this up, and then this little plate right here, you push that. Push it in, and it comes out just like that. Here's the little plate you push. And this just to demonstrate, this is in a closed position. You can't move it. Push this up, and suddenly now you can. So that's how that works. Here's the inside. There's a little lime green part there, kind of like reminiscent of the zombie days. The next thing you want to do is the bolt. Remove the bolt. Now at this point here, you can remove the barrel. And to do that, like I said, you pull down on both of these and just pull. It comes right out. Here's the gas piston. Then to get the bolt out, there's a little notch right here. Center it on that notch. Pull up on the cocking lever. Push it forward. Just like that. And coincidentally, that's actually how you change the charging handle side. And I'll show you that in a minute once I get it reassembled. And there's the lower receiver. Here's the bolt. To get this out, you slide this back to the side, and you don't have to press it down to lock it. Just slide it to the side, and comes out. Easy once you get the hang of it. And here are two ejectors. Just to show you how this pin here works, when you push this to like that side, what it's going to do is the pin's going to be over here, and it's going to block it so that when a bolt comes back, the ejector comes forward, just like this. When it's forward, it's disengaged. It won't work. This one is still engaged, so it's going to flip around this way. and then if you flip this switch the other way, the inverse is true. Now, one thing about this, you cannot short stroke this bolt. If it doesn't come back all the way, it will not disengage one side and the cartridge will not be ejected. So that's one of the issues with underpowered ammo. So it will need to come all the way back into a full stroke, otherwise it won't work. To take this apart, you push forward and twist. This thing here is a little T, which is why you got to twist it. And this part here is fully assembled. You don't take it down anymore. One thing here, there's a firing pin. You will need kind of a little tool here for that, but push in on the firing pin and then pull out on the cam lock, and the firing pin comes out and the spring. This is all the farther that it's recommended to take it apart. Now you can push up on this and ease the springs out if you wanted to. There's really no need to. To do it, you would do the same method like what I did here. You just push it up and pull it out. It's a little bit tricky to get it back in, so I wouldn't recommend doing it. And like I said, you really don't need to. To reassemble, this goes in either way, and push in on the firing pin until the cam lock drops in. Now you'll notice that this actually goes in the opposite way as a AK. An AK comes out the front. This actually goes in the back. And as you notice, you can actually disassemble this in a different order. You don't have to do it with this part first or the bolt first. You can do it either way. Once you get that back in, pull this back out and to the front so that you can slide it back in. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the barrel in. To reassemble the barrel, push it all the way in like this, and you'll feel a little bit of resistance. Push and it'll lock. Give it a good tug. You want to make sure it's in. I've seen a saw, M249 saw, where the guy did not lock the barrel in, and when he fired it, that barrel shot out like 20 feet. So you definitely want to make sure that the barrel is locked, or else you'll get an unpleasant surprise. This here slides right in. Like I said, you want to make sure that that bolt catches forward. Once it's in here, you're going to stick your finger in there, flip it out, and press it. From there then you stick this back in, push up on the safety, snaps back in, and to change this charging handle side, pull back until it's lined up with a notch, and you'll know it's lined up with a notch because you'll be able to pull out on that bolt and it'll lock in place. Now it's kind of like semi-locked here, so you don't have to worry about the bolt slamming forward right now, and you can push that forward. Now once it's out, it's going to slam forward. Okay, once it goes back in, it'll slam forward, so get your fingers out of the way. Here's that ejection port toggle, and just to show you, this hole right here is open, so right now that spring would go all the way back in there. Now if you push the toggle, and it's a little bit hard to do with this thing, it would be easier with a bullet. Push the toggle, and now it clicks to the other side, and now that hole is open. To remove the barrel, I showed you before you had to disassemble it so far, and here's the issue. If you lock the bolt to the rear, when you pull on this and pull the barrel out, as soon as that barrel is unseated, this bolt's going to slam forward, and it's slamming forward on plastic. So you can damage the receiver. So don't ever lock the bolt to the rear and then try to remove the barrel. Now, one thing I have found, and Beretta does not say anything about this in the manual, but you can stick a magazine in, pull the bolt to the rear. Now you can take out the barrel and this will not slam forward because the magazine will physically prevent it from doing that. So from there, you can swap out the barrel. Okay. At this point, you could take the magazine out and ease the bolt forward, no problem. So that's actually how easy you can swap out a barrel, how fast. is with the magazine. I mean, it took literally seconds. Magazine wasn't in there all the way. So that's how fast you can swap out the barrel. It took literally seconds. Now to stick it in, you actually do not need the barrel, you do not need the magazine in for this. And I'll take it out to demonstrate something here. Oops, wrong button. Just to show you what the bolt does, when I stick it in here, when I seat it, that didn't do it that time. Normally the bolt will crash home. It's no big deal when you're putting the barrel in because the barrel's there to prevent it from hurting the receiver. So, fast barrel change. Magazine is in, bolt to the rear, out, new barrel in. That's how fast you can change barrels on this thing. I mean, it took less than 10 seconds. Pretty sweet. Now, of course, if you need to change the bolt for that caliber configuration, it'll be different. But that's kind of nice with this light barrel. I mentioned how hot it gets. I don't know if it would warp or anything with extended shooting. So, you know, with that, you'd be able to do a pretty fast swap out to a different barrel. Now, for magazines, this was designed to work with a military STANAG, which is the USGI issue, metal magazines. That's what it's designed to work with. So you can use this Beretta or you can use any M16 issue magazine. Now, the issue comes with polymer magazines. I have found, I have a Magpul Gen 1 and Gen 2, both of those work no problems at all. I have a HK polymer magazine and that worked no issues at all. One magazine I have that did not work in this is the Tango Down, and that actually has a ridge right here, and when you stick it in the AR-15 mag well, you're able to fully seat it and the ridge is below that line. However, on here, that ridge is actually too high to fully seat in here, so it's not going to fully seat. So you're going to have issues with that. It won't work. Basically, any magazine that has a ridge right here that would prevent you from pushing it all the way up in here, keeping in mind that this goes a little bit lower than an AR-15, that's the magazines you're going to have an issue with. Any other magazine will work fine. Beretta does have planned a couple different caliber kits with this. I don't have an MSRP on those yet. The first of which, they're going to put out a 5.56 SBR, short barrel rifle barrel. And that's going to start rolling out the second quarter of 2015. After that, then they'll start introducing the other calibers. Some of the first ones, they're looking at the 300 Blackout, which will just be a barrel swap, and the 6.8 SPC, which will be a barrel, bolt, and magazine, and then the 5. Then after that, they're starting to get into some Russian calibers. The 5.45 by 39, which will just be a barrel swap, and then the 7.62 by 39, which will be barrel, bolt, and magazine. I think it's really cool anytime you can have one rifle and be able to shoot NATO and Russian standards out of the same rifle. I think that's pretty cool. I think for that reason alone, this would be a pretty good seller. And I would like to see them put out a suppressor barrel, or maybe just sell them with a suppressor barrel so that the gas system works a little bit better with a suppressor. You don't get that gas blowback. The ARX100 is very well built, and yes, it does have a lot of plastic on it, but it's built really well, just like the Scar. The issues I outlined on this, like I said, are not deal breakers, but I think that once Beretta addresses those issues, I think this is a potential to be a really good rifle. And I would put it up there once those issues are fixed. You know, it's going to be in the same caliber as like the Scar, ACR, a lot of those other rifles. The difference is this one here is actually currently issued to a standing army, which the other ones are not. So this one here is getting real world testing. You know, yes, the Scar was tested in limited scope with our military, but this is a full issue to a entire army. I had a lot of fun with this ARX100. I think it's a great rifle, and unfortunately it's kind of early. It's not out, it's not on shelves yet. It's still in production, and I have to send this back because they need to hand it on to another writer to do reviews on. I hate to send it back, but I have to. This MSRP, at this point, I'm not sure if it's something I would buy. I'm borderline. Once they get those issues fixed, I do believe it is something I would buy. But right now, I think I would rather wait for those fixes. I think once those fixes happen, and I think it'll be soon, could even happen before you even see it on the shelves. Not sure what Beretta has planned. Once that's taken care of, I think this is going to be a great, great rifle. It's accurate. Like I said, it's not a bench rifle, but for a combat rifle, it's accurate. It's very reliable. Didn't have any issues with it, and I think you'll really enjoy it. If you have any questions, let me know. Semper Fi.